Good evening, everyone. I am Edno de Souza, and welcome to AES Sports Legacy Channel. Our program, Vivências do Esporte, has in mind to inform, to debate, to promote, and to entertain. This program has a talk show format that talks about relevant subjects such as education, sports, culture, politics, economy, and so on. To maintain the quality of this show on this evening, we have on the backstage given us a great technical support, giving all information and taking questions from our audience are Vieri Marcondes and Eder Mota. To present this show with me this evening are Adriano de Souza and José Luis Barbosa. As always, with the idea of offering the best, this evening would not be different. This evening, we are honored to receive on our AES Sports Legacy channel to participate on Vivências do Esporte program an outstanding professional, a fantastic human being who has made a difference in the way people see baseball as career. It is with a great satisfaction that I introduce you all Joe Alvarez. Please welcome Joe Alvarez.
Thank you, Edno. Thank you, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you, and I'm looking forward to a fantastic show.
Oh, thank you, Joe. But before we start, I would like to remind you to support our channel. Please subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, give the like, that is very important. Share on our social media network, inviting friends, because there is and still have time to watch this wonderful show, like he said. It is a great satisfaction to have you here, Joe, with us. Please feel at home, feel free, and feel free to say what you think. You don't have to worry about nothing. Okay?
You're going to get me in trouble already, aren't you?
All right. Joe, first of all, I need to apologize to our audience for the little delay that we had because we had some technical issues, but here we go, okay? Joe, like I said, it's a tremendous satisfaction to have you here with us tonight. But to start the show, let's go to the beginning, the real beginning, but...
We don't have enough time, Edno.
Oh, really? All right. All right. Here we go. Could you please tell us who Jose Rene Alvarez Ramirez is and where he was born, where he grew up?
Okay. Well, I was born in 1955 in a small town called Manzanillo, which is in the southern part of Cuba. You know, Cuba is like a caiman, like an alligator. And right. I'm towards the head of the alligator, so it's the southern part of Cuba. I was born in 55, and since I was able to walk, I think my grandfather already had me a baseball bat, a ball, and a hat, and ready to go.
Oh, right.
He was a Yankee fan, as most Latin Americans are. And I'll never forget, because the first shirt that he gave me was number 4, Lou Gehrig.
Lou Gehrig. Wow.
The Iron Man.
Yes, I remember that.
That's right. And that shirt I slept on it. I took a bath with it. I went to school with it. I did everything with that shirt since he gave it to me. It went down to my knees, so I didn't have to worry about anything else. Just put the shirt on, and I was ready to go. And my grandfather loved baseball, and every time we had a chance, he was always playing catch with me or taking me to the not stadium. What would you call that? To the playground where the kids would play ball, and we would pick up games. Not like it is now, where everything is so organized and full of rules and regulations. Over there, if you had two legs and one arm, you could still play.
Wow.
So we went and started playing. I remember started playing baseball since I was 5 years old. I remember coming to the farm outside of Manzanillo. My grandfather and my father had a big farm, which was half sugarcane, half cattle. And I remember getting there, and in the morning going to the corral, saddle up a horse, and go down 5-6 kilometers to play a game of baseball. And I didn't need my mother to come with me. I didn't need my father to come with me. They knew exactly where I was going to go. And when the sun started going down, that was time to come home.
Oh,
That's how everything started. So we migrated to the United States in 1966. My grandfather had graduated from Boston College as a dentist. He had gone back to Cuba. And when Fidel took over, and they began to realize that I don't want to get into politics, but I'm going to tell you exactly how I feel.
this is the way.
Not because of how I felt, because I was 11 years old when I left, but because of the history and the stories that I've been told by my grandfather and my father, and uncles and so on and so forth. My family was very influential. I hate to admit it, and I hate to say it, but my family was very influential on Castro being successful, because the big families in Cuba back then thought that Castro was going to be the right guy for the job. And once they realized that he was not, my grandfather went to him, and I have a picture here, which someday I'm going to show to you guys, in a meeting that he had with Castro in Havana. Is Castro, Raúl Castro, Castro's brother, my grandfather, and a couple other people that I don't know who they are. But he basically went to that meeting, my grandfather, to tell Castro, if we leave you everything behind, credit, bank accounts, businesses, property, would you let the family go? And Fidel said, go ahead. And that's how we were able to leave. When we got to Miami, my grandfather had a little gathering and told everybody, if we stay in Miami, we're really not going to be able to learn what the United States is all about, because we're going to be influenced by a Hispanic community, and you're just going to fall into being in a Hispanic world. My suggestion would be, let's go to Boston for 2 or 3 years, really learn what the United States is all about, and then from there, we as a family could go wherever you think is best to begin your new life. And that's what we did. And we wound up being in Belmont, Massachusetts for almost 3 years.
I know there pretty well.
And you talk about a culture shock.
Yeah.
But it was a great start. My father also brought with him my mom and my father brought with him their licenses as a dentist and a pediatrician. And when New York State, this is in 69 or 70, opened up, they were the first state in the United States to open up their doors for Cuban professionals to do their national board. So we went to New York. My dad never wanted us to live in New York for some reason. He had this thing about New York. We moved across the Hudson to Elizabeth, New Jersey, and he would work on a clothing factory, 8 to 5, come home, shower, change, whatever, have his meal, and then go across the Hudson to NYU to do his studies. And 7 years later, he got his license again as a dentist. As soon as he walked into the door, he told my mother, "Pack, we're going to Miami. I hate the cold." So we wound up in Miami in 1975, which was the year after I graduated and my professional career had started with the New York Yankees. I was drafted by them in '74, the third pick that year. And that's how I started my baseball career.
Oh, Joe. Well, I can imagine how your father could feel, because from the southern Cuba to Boston or Massachusetts is a little bit colder, right?
Not only a little bit colder, it's a culture shock. You know, my dad, my mom, and dad had my brother and I take English lessons in the afternoon after we finished regular school in Cuba. And we thought we were ready. We were ready. We speak English. We come to Boston, and the Mary Had a Little Lamb story that we knew back in Cuba didn't work too good in the streets of Boston. So we had to learn all over again. And it was a culture shock.
Oh, God.
It worked out. My grandfather was right. We did the right thing. We followed him over there. We learned the language real fast. 6 to 8 months, my brother and I were already communicating with the kids, and we were going to school. But what did the most influence was when spring came along and baseball season started, and my brother and I hit the field with trying out for the baseball team. We were in 5th grade at the time. And that team they had back then, I think, had won 1 or 2 games the year before. So my brother and I, we go and try out for the team. And to make a long story short, after championship, now the Cuban kids were the kings of the school, because we were, we brought a championship baseball team to the school. So from there on in, we were able to get along with everybody much easier.
Oh, for sure.
Baseball is king anywhere you go.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow.
I know that.
It's very nice to hear that story for you. And I know you advanced a little bit, but we're gonna get there. But I know you explained a little bit, but I would like to get back a little bit just to ask you if you have any memories about your childhood in Cuba.
Oh, I sure do. And again, I'm going to try to stay out of politics, okay?
No problem. Hey, look, as I told you, here we can talk a little bit. We cannot be involved, but we can talk about politics, economics, and everything. No problem.
Okay. I warn you, you were going to get me in trouble. All right, here we go.
Let's go.
In the 1940s and 50s, and again, I'm telling you this on facts that I heard my grandfather and my father explaining to me. In the 1940s and 50s, Cuba had one of the best economies in the world because of 2 products, the sugar and the tobacco. The sugar industry and the tobacco industry were number 1 in the world back then. And Cuba was very, very strong economically, to the point where if you went to Cuba with $1, US dollar, to vacation, they gave you 90 cents back. That's how strong the dollar, the Cuban peso was back then. So it was a beautiful island. I remember so many good things. And at the same time, I realized that one of the problems that have always existed in Latin America is that the middle class is far few in between. You were either up there or you were down here.
There's
And
no middle class.
yeah, and like I said, my family, I was born with a silver spoon, so to speak. My family had done very well in businesses, and so I grew up uh, with the best thing that the island could give you. But at the same time, I also saw a lot of good deeds done by our family with the people that work with them in the farm and in the stores and in the clinic. They were good to all those people. So I grew up not thinking that I was better than anybody else. I grew up, my parents would not allow me, my family would not allow us, not me, us, to think that we were better than anyone else. We were just born into a good family, Christian family, Catholic family, actually. And we were going to go by the rules of being a good citizen and enjoying life and doing the best we could to help our neighbors. So I remember a lot of stuff, riding horses in the farm, working the cattle. My father had us. My father could have given my brother and I just about anything, but he never gave us anything. He always says you have to earn it. So if you want a bicycle, I got a lawnmower out there that you could do and cut the lawn and wash the cars and all that stuff. He never gave us anything that we did not earn. And to me and my brother, that was a great tool of teaching when I had my kids. Because just like everybody else, we want to give our kids the best things that there is. And sometimes I think we do more harm than good. Because those kids have to learn that when you fall down and you stumble, you got to get up and dust yourself and get ready to go to work again the next day. Now, that's what I was born. I was born and raised on earning what I needed to get. Work hard. And there's going to be an answer at the end for the time that you spend and your hard work that you did and the due diligence that you did. And it was a good upbringing for me. I saw a lot of good stuff, even though I practically had everything I needed. Cuba was a beautiful island. I still remember it vividly, the beaches and the mountains. And I remember when we used to go to the farm, my dad and my brother and I, we would get our 3 horses ready, and we would go and take a trip around the property, and he took us right around 12 hours to come back. It was a big property. It was 99 caballerías, which I think is somewhere around 30,000 acres.
Wow.
If you translate it to acres. No one has really been able to give me the exact number, but there's people that have said that it's roughly somewhere around there. So it was a big property, it was a beautiful property, and I remember it very well. And it's just too bad that things worked out the way they did, and hopefully someday we'll be able to visit a Cuba Libre. Hopefully that will come.
All right, Joe. Hey, Joe. Thank you to be here. My name is Jose. Nice to meet you.
Pleasure.
I heard a lot of things about you, and I can see your open book. I want to continue that path a little bit. I think you kind of answer a few things already ahead, but I want to continue this path as your beginning here, especially when you get here already here in America. Joe, as we all know, when someone changed cities in his own country, need some time to adapt to a new reality. Now, when he or she change country, this adaptation become more difficult.
Yes.
There is so many things to account for, such as language barrier, social habits, and cultural life to a new place. In order to teach our audience, I have two questions for you. What was like for you to be in a new place, look to learn a new language? And the second question is, what are the most important, valuable lessons that your family taught you at that time here in America?
Well, those are two very powerful questions, and I'm going to try to answer them as vast information that I could give you.
Awesome.
When I came to this country, I had a little bit of an idea because of my grandfather having been able to study and go back to Cuba. So as we grew up, he would tell us a lot of stories about the United States, but nothing came to the real thing when we arrived in the United States. But at least we had an idea what we were getting into. Now, I was 11 years old when I came to the United States, and my brother was 9 and a half. I'm a year and a half older than he is, although he's bigger and stronger than I am. Later on, because not at the beginning, I was the big one and the strong one. I'll give you that story later on.
All right.
Always the first thing that comes to play in a situation where you move into a different country is the language barrier.
Yep.
And usually that comes to be a more difficult problem for adults than it is for children. Because somewhere along the line, children tend to, if it's basketball season, you pick up a basketball in the playground and you begin to play basketball. You don't need to translate what the basketball is supposed to do. And eventually you begin to talk to one another, sign language and a word here and a word there. And by the end of the day, you had a wonderful day and you go home. Adults are a little more difficult because they need to find a workplace. They need to communicate in that workplace. So it's a lot tougher for them. But for us, it was a lot easier to be able to comprehend and to manipulate certain things that we had. A true story, and it's kind of like you scratch your head with this, because when we came to the United States, it was somewhere in the middle of November, and in Massachusetts in November, when that plane landed and those doors opened, I remember me saying to myself, "Where the hell are we?" Because it was cold as hell. But at the same time, it was something new to us. Right away, we started, fooling around with snowballs and sliding down the hill, and it became a joke to us. But I remember when we went to school the first week. Of course, we couldn't understand much of what was going on the subject of history, English, grammar. But when it came to math, oh boy, they gave us a test. And I remember it was a test in math, history, grammar, and math. And my brother and I, we aced the math test. We aced it.
You take an A.
And the other three were multiple choices. And somehow the two of us were able to do fairly decent, where we got high 70s, low 80s. And when the scores were added, because we aced the math test, we came up to right above 90 average on the rest of the test. And the teacher came to us thinking that we were the smartest thing in the world. And all we did was we started, multiple choices. Yes, here, no, there. Yes, here, no, there. And we happened to hit the right choices. But when the math came, we knew what we were doing. So she took us apart and she said, "Oh, you guys are doing so good. We're trying to see if next year we could jump you a grade."
Wow.
Wow,
And
that's nice.
I'm smiling, I'm saying, "Oh, that's great. I don't know what's going on." Well, we told our parents. They told us to bring our parents in because they wanted to give them the good news that we were going to be exposed to a higher grade next year. And when they told our parents through an interpreter what was going on, the answer was absolutely not. Leave them where they are and let them slowly get to learn, because they knew what had happened. They knew we didn't know that good of English to be able to do but we just happened to hit the right questions, and boom, we were gone. But it was the right thing to do, to keep us where we were, not only because of that, but because of athletics. We were able to play in the group age that we were supposed to play and not play with advantage where the kids, at that age, 11, 12 years old, you get a guy that is a year and a half older than you physically, it's a big difference.
Yeah.
So we were able to do that. It was funny, but it was the right thing to do. No question about it. Now, baseball is a universal language. I call it a universal language because once you get your uniform ready and you're facing that guy throwing the baseball, no English, Spanish, Japanese, or Korean is going to help you. It's either you have the skills or you don't have it. So because my brother and I were able to compete, everything became much easier on the other side of the lines, as they say, because the kids began to accept us on a different level. Because we were helping them win games. I remember the first game we played, my brother had never catch. I was a shortstop or whatever, but they told us, "You are the pitcher and your brother is the catcher," and we threw a no-hitter. Just like that, first day, a no-hitter. Here we go.
Wow.
The newspapers, the Cuban immigrants come to Belmont, Massachusetts, and the first thing they do is they show how good baseball is played in Cuba, and they throw a no-hitter. Well,
Wow.
to my brother and I, all we did was play baseball. But to them, that was a big deal because they have never had it done before at that level. Well,
This is very nice to hear that,
So,
because this is something that we try to teach or explain to the Brazilians or people that we used to talk, that how important and how the sports help you when you go abroad,
yes,
talking
yes,
about the United
eh, eh,
States and how sports can open you doors
yes. Open
and
doors.
and make your life easier, like you said.
Guys, and since we have all the time in the world, and now you got me talking, which is your fault, Edno.
All right.
We're gonna jump back and forth into a lot of stuff because I'm beginning to really get on the zone now.
Okay.
All right. It's more than
right.
welcome.
If I tell you, if I'm gonna tell you this coming from an individual that never ever thought that I would be in that position, because of what Adriano just said, because of baseball, I've been able to play golf with CEOs of multi-million-dollar companies. I've been able to dine with ambassadors. I've been able to shake hands with presidents. I've been able to do things that if baseball was not in the middle of it, I would have never been able to do. I thank the game of baseball for so much that has given me opportunity-wise. but I have tried to take advantage of all those opportunities and use it to the best of my ability for the good. For the good.
That's great. That's great. Now, my second question was, what are the most important and the most valuable lessons that your family taught you at that time, this time you just arrived in our state? What you have in your mind, in your memory, the lesson that your family, either your mom, your
Well,
dad, your grandpa, can you tell us?
the first thing that I remember growing up in the United States is the freedom that this country gives you. I'm talking about freedom of speech, freedom of religion, all those freedoms that we take for granted at times. Because remember, I came from a country that even though at the beginning we had those freedoms, they were taken away from us. And I remember uh, all those scenarios where uh, the soldiers came to a business and told the business owner, "This is no longer yours. This is the government now." And I remember when they came to my father's business and my father's farm, telling him, "This is no longer yours. You work for us." So when we came to this country, I remember the first time we went to a grocery store, one of those big Publix, Winn-Dixie type of grocery stores, and you stood on those aisles, I should say, and you looked around and you saw all those different type of things that you had never seen before, because they took all that away from you in Cuba. They gave you a list of little things that you were able to get, and that was it. And you had enough rice and beans and meat for a few days. And if you ate too much, tough luck. You couldn't go back to the store and get any more. So to me, that was one of those things where, wow, we're in a country now where, it's accessible for you to do. But more than that, my family, and when I say my family, I am talking more of the Latin American culture, including Brazil, including Mexico. We are very much family orientated. We respect our parents. We respect our grandparents. Most of the time, you live together. That sense that when your grandparents are old, you put them on a home like they usually do in the United States. They take care of them, but they're in a home somewhere. They're not with the family. My father never thought of doing that to his father or mother or my grandfathers. They were with us. We learned that from the Hispanic way of doing things. So when we came to the States, that was one of the things that we needed to verify, that we were not going to fall into that changing our idea of what a family was all about. Two, my father, if there was a gentleman called a gentleman, that was my dad. He taught us, my brother and I, to be very sensitive to women, to be courteous, to treat them like ladies, and opening a door, for a female. It necessarily didn't have to be your sister, your mother, your anybody. If you walk and someone was going to go into a department store or anywhere, you as a man, you were supposed to open that door for that lady. That was my father. He taught me that. When you go out on a date, you're supposed to open up the door of the car and let your date go in instead of blowing the horn and let him come in like they used to. He taught all these things that were taught to us in a Hispanic background type of scenario. When we came to the States, we had to get used to or adjust certain things because it was too much freedom here that we were not used to, and sometimes that freedom could work against you. I really believe so. So uh, I was I was more of a loner when I grew up.
Hmm.
I wanted to make sure that I was doing the right thing, that I wasn't following the wrong crowd. Uh, my father always said to me, I remember when I started playing, he said to me, son, you got two names on your uniform. You got the name in the front, which is your team, and the name of your family in the back of your uniform. And I hope that you know which one is best. Respect both, but I hope you know which one is the best. And that was my family's name. I always wanted to make sure that I did things according to the Alvarez way of doing things. And I grew up like that. Uh, I lost a lot of, let's call it friends, acquaintance, because of the way I thought. You know, back then, there was a lot of freedoms out here that guys in 17, 18, 19 years old when we started with money in your pocket, you could do just about anything you wanted to do. I wasn't in that crowd. I didn't think it was the right thing to do. I was more afraid of putting my family name down than anything else. To me, that was very important. And to this day, I still feel the same way.
That's nice. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Joe, it's very nice because the the idea, like Adam said in the introduction of this program, in this talk show, which our channel is to educate people, to inform people, and you just give us great information, great things, because there is a lot of people around the world seeing us. They also are foreigner. They can relate what you relate. There's so many family that went the same process you went here, and but there's a lot of people outside of this here that doesn't have no idea what that is, and you give valuable information. I want to appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Well, those two questions, Jose, that you asked me, they uh, they have so much information. Really, you could talk hours on just those two subjects. But I certainly understand where you're coming from a coaching point of view. Uh, when I retired as a player and I began to coach, I always remember I used to tell the parents, they used to come to me, and of course, parents think that their kids are going to be the next president, the next, Barry Bonds, the next, Joe Frazier or Muhammad Ali. They're the best and all that stuff. And that's good. I understand that. But at the same token, you have to be realistic because if you put a kid in a scenario where you could tell as a professional that that kid baseball is not the sports that he should be concentrating on, why put that individual through a 2, 3, 4 years of frustration? So sometimes honesty could be hard. I never told the kid no, but I would tell the parents. I said, maybe we should think about giving little Joey here a tennis racket instead of a baseball bat because his talents are not on the baseball field. And maybe we should encourage him to play tennis, to play basketball, to play golf. And in those scenarios, you might be able to tell whether he is uh, a, a, a sportsman or he is not, and he needs to go to school, which is always has been my number one priority. I have always told the kids, even with talent, use baseball to get an education. And once you finish your education, your talent should be there, and then you go ahead and pursue a profession with a background of something that you already have as far as an education is concerned. Not too many kids are ready to sign a professional contract out of high school, and that's a mistake that a lot of them make, and they're not ready mentally or physically or emotionally to do so. So I've always told them, go to school, grow up, and later on, if you have the talent, they're going to come and get you.
Well, Joel, thank you so much for this, all of this information that you told us, because this is the goal that we are trying to achieve with this channel here, with this program as well, because we understand how important is the education.
Mhm.
Because we have two different things. We have an education, and we have that probably we can call scholar system. Because in school, you will have information about disciplines, some disciplines, math, like you said, history, grammar, whatever, physics, biology. But education, school can help you. Maybe not too much as we would like to have, but can help you. And Tony Zaffaredo, that you had a chance to talk and to meet.
The
Ronaldo
Italian
Nehemiah.
stallion,
Yes.
the
Yes,
Italian
exactly.
stallion.
Yeah, he stayed with us last week. Ronaldo Nehemiah, who were our first guests for the inauguration program. Lewis Johnson, Pedro Machado, they stayed here, and all of them were extremely emphatic on the subject of education. And you right now just put everything that they said in the same level or a little bit more.
Well,
As,
I'm going to give you, pardon my interruption, but I'm going to add to that as an
go
example.
ahead.
As
Go
an
ahead.
example.
Take your
My
time.
dad, my dad practiced dentistry in Cuba for 22, 25 years before he came to this country. When we migrated, he brought his degree with him. So did my mom. And because they had an education, because they had a degree, all they needed to do was to wait for the chance for a state in the United States to give them the opportunity to go back to school. And he took that opportunity in New York, and 7 years later, he was back practicing dentistry. Now, you tell me, without that education, our lives would have been totally different. Because he, as a father, as a provider, would not have been able to provide as well as he did as a dentist if he had to work in a factory. What's the difference? Education.
Well, this is the most important thing that nobody can take from you.
Oh, I'll
People
give
will,
you another example. Oh, see, they're coming back to me now. My brother, my brother,
okay.
when I graduated in 74, my brother was just a junior in high school, a typical junior in high school. I go out for my first professional season. When I come back, my brother had decided that he was going to be a dentist out of nowhere. Of course, my father was very happy. He always wanted me to be the dentist, but the only thing I knew about teeth is to brush your teeth in the morning and at night. So my brother becomes the dentist. He went to the Dominican Republic, of all places, la Universidad de San Pedro de Macorís. And I'm going to be honest with you, and if he would be here, he would tell you the same thing. The reason why he had to go to the Dominican Republic was because his grades were so bad that no school in the United States would take him. Because my brother fooled around in high school and didn't really pay much attention to school. He was a great athlete, basketball, wrestling, in baseball, to the point where the Yankees were going to draft him the year after me. The scout came to me and said, "We're going to draft your brother this year." And I told him, don't waste your time. He said, "What do you mean, don't waste your time?" I said, "Don't waste your time. My brother will go to a spring training, and the first time they tell him to do something that he doesn't like, he's going to tell him, 'See ya,' he's going to go home." Because that's the way my brother is. But now he's a big dentist in Tucson, Arizona. He's got a little farm outside of Tucson, 6 riding horses. He loves to ride horses, but he's become the dentist of so many X amount of people in Tucson, and he has a great practice. Why? Education.
Well, sometimes the toughest time is a great school to educate someone else.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, sir. So yeah, education, they cannot take away your education. No matter how old you are, no matter where you go, that education will be with you for the rest of your life. What you do with it is up to you. But if you have an education, if you have a degree, you could do whatever you want to do with that degree, as long as you're able to proceed accordingly.
You're right. You're right. Well, Joe, we're gonna keep the subject talking about education, but we have some curiosity in our audience. They do too. So the United States has its own sports educational system. I don't know back then if Cuba was the same system that Union Soviet, the former Union Soviet, because I know that came before Fidel Castro, but I don't know before. Maybe you can tell us how was when you were there, the system that the educational system that Cuba used to follow, and
And
then okay, and then we want to know if you had any contact with a different sports beside baseball.
Okay. Um, when I started playing baseball, as I told you before in Cuba, I was probably around 5 years old. And I do remember finishing school, and my grandfather would get me in his car and take me to the sports complex, El Deportivo, they used to call it, which in that complex they had a baseball stadium, track and field, boxing, basketball, and swimming. Those are the 6 that I remember on the whole sport complex. But of course, my interest was to the baseball area. When you got there, no one had bats, no one had balls, no one had gloves, because you couldn't buy those things in Cuba. The stores didn't sell them. So when you arrived, the coach had a bat, and inside the bat there were gloves already put inside the bat. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yes, I do.
All 9 gloves were already in that bat. One on the first base side and one on the third base side. And then the teams were chosen, and you were there, and you used the equipment that they gave you, which was pretty good equipment back then. Once you finished, you had to put it back and walk away without anything, because that did not belong to you. That belonged to the government. Everything was supplied by the government, including school paper, pencils, everything. Everything was given to you by the government.
What do you
So,
mean? What do you
go
mean?
ahead.
Before Fidel Castro or after Fidel Castro? Because
No, after Fidel Castro.
okay,
After 59, in 1959. Before, I had my ball, my gloves and my bats and my spikes, and the family bought stuff for the kids around the neighborhood, and we play ball on our own. But once Fidel took over, all that was supplied by the government. Yes.
Okay, but what kind of system, school system, you had back then
Now,
before
when
classes?
you talk about school system, what are you referring to specifically?
Yeah, because in United States you have this educational system. You can study and practice sports at the same time. This is not so common around the world. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's
Right.
I would say that the United States is the only country that has this perfect system. I would say that's why I want to know. I want to know what kind of system it was in Cuba back then.
Well, I don't know if you could call it a system. I'm going to tell you what I remember. I remember going to school, and when we finished our day in school, somewhere around 2:30 in the afternoon, I would go to my grandfather's house, which was pretty close to the school, 3 or 4 blocks, have some kind of snack, and then he would take me about mile and a half to the sports complex to play baseball, and everything was there. The school was not related to sports,
Okay,
which here it is.
I got you.
Actually, in the United States, there are times that I think they pay more attention to sports than they do to the curriculum, the studies.
The
They,
education.
they are so into championships and finishing first, and at least back then when I'm talking back in the 60s, the 70s. Now that's changed quite a bit, because now even if you finish in last place, you still get a trophy, which I don't think it should be. But anyway, uh, that's. I remember my high school coach always used to say to me, "Second place is for losers." Second place is for losers? He said, yes. You only remember first place. You don't remember second place. And that mentality gets you going. Compete, finish first, try to do the best you can. It was a good influence in a way. But I don't remember a system until later on, Adriano. I think the system really came into Cuba after I was gone.
I got you.
The first few years, it was still hit and miss. They were going through the procedures of more politics than anything else, and then they began to come down to the school system. That answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right. Okay, Joe. I when I received your resume, it was very quite great resume. So you have a tremendous resume, both as an athlete and as a coach as well. To those that are watching our program, the question we have for you is that, according to your professional biography, you were drafted at the age of 19 years old, correct?
Correct.
Following the American draft system, you are already in college when you get drafted?
I had at the time about 6 universities that I remember. I still have the letters here that were after me to go and accept the baseball scholarship. One of them was the University of Miami. At the time, they were the powerhouse in baseball in the 70s and the 80s. But the one that my father really wanted me to go to was West Point. West Point came to my high school and offered me an opportunity to go to West Point and become a cadet. My father wanted me so bad. So I said, Dad, I will take they call it when they ask you to come and spend a weekend with him to show you the facilities. That's got a name, I forgot now. Anyway, so I went over on a Friday. I remember getting there late in the afternoon. Beautiful campus, still there. And then the next day they woke me up to go to breakfast in the mess hall, and I will never forget. I was having breakfast, and somebody came up to a cadet who was with his uniform and told him to get up. The guy got up and saluted and all that, and he started giving him all kinds of hell. I guess he had done something wrong or whatever, and the finger right at and that left such a. I finished the orientation, is what they call it. I finished the orientation. I came back home and I said, Dad, I know you want me to go, and I will do it for you, but I'll be home in a week. Because if somebody gets on my face like that, I'll punch him and come home. So I couldn't see myself being able to be subject to something like that, which is very easy in the military. I just couldn't see myself doing that. I'm the type of person, and Edno, Adriano, you know me more than your brother, but I'm the type of person that if you come to me with an easy concept, I'll give you the shirt of my back. But if you come to try and get it for me, you got a problem. So I just didn't see myself going into the military. And at the time, Jose, my dad had just graduated, and I felt that the signing bonus that they were offering me at the time was going to be a great beginning for my family not to worry about money for a while and concentrate on doing the things that they needed to do to get themselves going. So I told my dad that I was going to do this and to use the money for whatever he wanted to. Well, what we did is we bought a home, and then he put the rest of the money in the bank, and he told me, I'm going to accept this with one condition. He said, when you are ready to get married, when you're ready to start a family, this money, all of it, will be back in your account. And he did. He did. 5 years later,
Wow.
he was there for me. Absolutely.
My second question is, Joe, when you were hired by the New York Yankees, what was the impact it had on you and in your family?
Oh, my goodness, Lord. When I play baseball, I was successful in high school. I was successful in semi-pro leagues. I was playing against ex-minor leaguers and ex what they call semi-professional players in the area of Elizabeth, Newark, in New Jersey, Philadelphia, New York area. I was 17, 18 years old, and these guys were double my age. And I was doing fine. I was holding my own. And that gave me so much of a confidence, because here's a kid, I had not graduated high school yet, playing against this competition, which was way over my head, and I was holding my own. So baseball, to me, I never thought of professional baseball. I just saw baseball. I wanted to play baseball. It wasn't enough time in the day for me and my brother to be playing baseball. I remember playing 4 games on a Sunday. Started at 8 o'clock in the afternoon, and we finished at 6 o'clock at night. You know, it was just the way it was. We didn't think much of it. So my senior year in high school, I am setting a record, which I believe still stands in the Union County record books in Elizabeth. I was hitting 545 in my senior year in high school, and that had never been done before. So they began interviews and this and that, and I couldn't care less. I just wanted to play baseball. But they kept making it a big deal and a big deal and a big deal. Well, I finished with, if I'm not mistaken, that year I finished hitting 575. And I made the All-Star game. I was first team All-State, first team this, first team that, and blah, blah, blah. And I couldn't care because all I wanted to do was play ball. At the end of the season, my coach comes to me, which was a very good friend of the family, and said, I got a letter from the Yankees that they're going to draft you. and my father said, I would like for him to go to school. And I said, you want me to go to school? I'll go to school. But I really want to test this out now and go out and start knocking heads with the big boys and see where I belong. So my father says to me, I'll make a deal with you. He says,
Come the deal.
yeah,
Come the
here
deal.
comes the deal. He says, I will let you go. I will let you sign because in those days, you needed to be 21 years old to be able to sign by yourself. If you're under 21, your parents had to okay it.
Mhm.
So he said, I'll make a deal with you. I will let you. I will co-sign your contract if you co-sign a contract with me. And the contract with me is that you will finish your education somehow in the next 10 years. And I said, okay, I will do that. And he went ahead and we signed a contract, and I started to go back to school in the off season. And it took me longer because I could only go a semester or two at the time, because the first 3 years in my career, I was playing baseball full time, from summer to instructional league to winter ball. I mean, I didn't have time to go to school. But then I began to, after my accident, I began to have a little more time, and I began to go to school. And again, I have to be honest with you. I still have 12 credits to go. I haven't finished. I owe it to my dad, and I will get that done. I will get that done.
Well, just
I
one
want-
job credit will be one semester.
I want to, yes. 12 credits, exactly, one semester. You're
One
right.
semester. You got done.
You're right.
Oh, all right, Joe. This is so fantastic because right now maybe we can change a little bit because as you told, we have much things to be talking here.
Yes.
Maybe we don't have too much time. At this time, that means we will be back again another time. And I will take this opportunity before we continue to ask for the people to give a little like, to subscribe to the channel, to send us a message. And now I have a little question that maybe almost for sure the Latin America people, a lot of people around the world, they want to know, because we here on this room talking now, we know a little bit how baseball market works in the United States. It has a very
Now,
particular thing.
a little.
But this development system demands much more from everyone in all professionals department and the players in this structure for the baseball, because it's a little bit unique. Let's say that baseball is unique. Tony Zeffirello, he spoke a little bit about how sports structures works. Our question here, could you provide us with a little more detail explaining how minor league baseball works?
I'm glad I retired because I was going to get in trouble again. I have always been a maverick when it comes to my business, to my career, because I really feel that Major League Baseball has done this backwards. And this is what I mean. They give all the essentials, they give all the benefits to the players that actually don't need it. What do I mean by that? When you get to be a major league player, especially these days, the last 25, 30 years or so, the money that you're making is so tremendous that you actually don't need much more being given to you because the money is there. You could actually do whatever you want with it. The example that I could give you more than anything, the last time that I was involved in at the major league level, the meal money was $150 a day. $150 a day
Real money.
meal money
Oh,
to
all right.
you're giving this to a millionaire, okay? To a millionaire.
Yes.
The same day, if you go down the end of the building and go into the minor league clubhouse and you ask that young man what is your meal money for the day, they're gonna tell you it's $20 a day. And he's making $800 a month. Now, I'm good at math, but I'm not a mathematician. But in
Right.
this picture, something is wrong.
Yeah,
Something is wrong.
I agree with you on that.
The other situation here is then you have a nutritionist come into camp and talk to a minor league system how to eat properly. Fantastic. Fantastic. It's a fantastic idea.
Yes.
But I already spent $20 on my breakfast according to what you want me to eat. What am I going to do for lunch or dinner? The concept is totally wrong. Why do they do it? I question that. I've asked that question many times, and no one has really been able to give me an answer.
And it's still the
But
same.
it's the system.
No, it's still the same. It's still working.
Oh, it is. It is. I've had people say, well, you don't want to make it too easy for those guys trying to get to the big leagues. Okay. To an extent, I agree with you. You want them to have to work hard and be patient and learn the ropes but at the same time, you gotta feed those athletes. Just because they want to get there doesn't mean that the air and the water are going to supply them with the nutrition that they need. Why do they go to McDonald's and Burger King all the time on Subway? Because that's the only thing they could afford for with $20.
And pizza.
Give them more pizzas, give them more. That's one thing. Two, they say that if you give too much meal money, that especially the Latin kids are not going to use it to eat. They're going to use it to send it back to their families, which I understand. I understand. And I've seen it. I've seen it. I've seen them get a $20 bill and send 10 home. I've seen it. But they don't understand that if you are able to not indoctrinate, if you're able to teach these kids from the beginning, from the rookie year, that the worst thing that you could do to yourself as an athlete is not give yourself proper food. If you have $20, use those $20 for yourself. Get the most that you can out of those $20. Because if you send $10 to your family, sooner or later, your body is not going to allow you to play baseball at a competitive level like the other guys are doing. So what's going to happen? In a year or two, you're going to be sent home. You have to educate them and make them understand that, yes, tell your family, just hang in there a little bit, give me a year or two, and hopefully things will be different. That would be my way of approaching this. I also believe that the money has changed the attitude of players. The money that they're making gives too much too soon. The money that they're making doesn't give enough incentive for them to want to do better, because when you look in your bank account and you have X 1, 2, 10, $20 million and you haven't thrown a ball yet or swung a bat yet, what incentive do you have? So I think, to me, that is part of the system. And there's much little you could do about it, because it's become a business. It's become a big business. I don't blame them. I don't blame the players for taking the money. If you three are owners and you're fighting for me, I'm going to let you finish the fight, and whoever won, I'm going to shake your hand and take your money. It shouldn't be that way, but it is, because it's a business. There's no loyalty anymore. In my era, when we played, you hardly saw a player change teams unless he got traded. Unless he got traded. But if he didn't get traded, the guy would play 10, 12, 15 years with the same team. Free agency came in the picture, agents came in the picture, big money came in the picture, and now it's all about who's going to give me the most at the end of the day. Is it right? Is it wrong? You could have different concepts of how people look at this, but I always play the game because I love the game. I always play the game in front of the dollar sign. Although in my days, we didn't make that kind of money anyway to begin with. You had to earn it. But what I'm saying is, to me, it has changed sports. It's changed it to a business instead of a sport. And I grew up in a different era. I grew up when people loving to just put the uniform on and go and play the game. I never forget this. In 1984, I was with the Dodgers. I was coaching at the time. And we went from Vero Beach to Tampa to play the Reds. That was the first year that Pete Rose was the manager and player at the same time. He was getting a contract to manage and a contract to play, 1984. That's when he did what he did, and let's not get into that. But I remember we finished the game in Tampa, and Al Campanas, who was the general manager back then, told us, "You guys get ready, and I'll see you down in the lobby in about an hour. I'm going to take you to the best prime rib in St. Pete. St. Pete, Tampa are right next to one another, so it's all together." So we all got, we showered, boom, we went downstairs, and they got a couple of vans from the hotel, and they took us to the dog track in St. Pete. That's what the best prime rib in town, and it was good. As we were there, the place is full. We had a reservation. And as we were there, Pete Rose with a couple of guys was down about 2 or 3 tables. And when he saw us, he came over and he started chatting with the guys, and small talk here and small talk there. And I said, Pete, how does it feel to be a manager and a player? He says, he used to call me Joey. He said, "Joey, I don't manage, I play." I said, "Okay, I understand what you're saying." I said, "How about that big contract that they just gave you? Can you justify that?" Now remember, this is 1984. The money, the big money had not yet come in, but they were paying millions of dollars. Pete got a 3-year deal, if I'm not mistaken. He got a 3-year deal for $5 million. That back then was outrageous. So I said, "Pete, what do you think?" And he looked around. He said, "I want to make sure nobody hears this." He says, "Joey, no one is worth that kind of money, but if they want to give it to me, I'll take it." That to me, coming from who I consider the or one of the most valuable players in baseball take apart what he did, which I don't agree. Take apart what he did. When
I got
Pete
it.
Rose put his uniform on, there was no better competitive than Pete Rose. He would do whatever it took to win a ball game. If he had to slide and break a double play against his mother at second base, he would do it and send her flowers to the hospital later on. He would do whatever it took. What a competitor. What a professional. And then he fell into what we all know, and I disagree completely. No one should be in the Hall of Fame with that type of scenario. But off the field, this guy was a tremendous, tremendous player. I guess what I'm trying lost love for the game, has lost, I don't know what to call it. That
Loyalty.
loyalty, yes,
Yeah.
And passion.
professionalism. I mean, again, I could get in trouble by saying all the things that I want to say, but at the same token, I still believe that it's a beautiful game. I still believe that there's a lot of good people involved in it. At the same token, I still believe that I've seen too many good people leave the game and others take the turn where they really don't have the capacity to do so, but because you have a degree that makes you liable to be able to conduct yourself on with a uniform on, and I disagree with that completely.
Well, Joe. Well, it's nice. Those explanations, Joe, it's amazing. I didn't know that. I could hear some history about Pete Rose, but I didn't know someone close to me that could tell the things that you just told us.
You
And
know,
then, well,
go
okay,
ahead.
go ahead.
Well, there's so many stories. I could tell you, people think that Pete Rose became a baseball player, just like that. And Pete Rose was a football player that wanted to play baseball. And
I got you.
his first two seasons, Pete Rose was supposed to be a second baseman. And a good friend of mine who passed away, Reggie Otero, Regino Otero, he was known as the El Hombre de Goma in Cuba, first baseman, because of the way he used to stretch like a rubber. He was a great first baseman. Came to the United States and played with the Cincinnati Reds, and then became one of their coaches. And Reggie and I were good friends. He's from Cuba, of course, older than I am. He passed away in '88. And remind me to tell you the story behind his passing, because that's the way I want to go. He told me, Joe, the first 2 years in spring training with Pete, they wanted to release him because he couldn't catch a ground ball. He said they would hit him ground balls. He would not allow it to get by him because he would stand in front of it, but his hands were so rough, tough hands, and everything bounced off him, off his glove, and they wanted to release him. And he told them, no, don't release this kid. Back then, there was not so much people involved in releases. It was the manager and the coaches and the farm director. That was it. And they told the manager, they told the farm director not to release him, bring him back again. Well, his second year, he got a little bit better, but still. And Reggie took him to Venezuela, to Caracas, for the Winter League. And that's where Pete Rose learned how to play baseball. And then the year after that, if I'm not mistaken, was '66, his first year in spring training. big league spring training. He started in 63, but his first big year was 66. And he was playing a game against the Yankees, and they walked him. And Pete put his bat down and ran. Remember the way he used to do it all the time? He runs to first base after a walk. And Mickey Mantle and Joey Berra were standing on the bench. And when he took off running, Yogi says to Mickey, "Hey, look at Mr. Hustle over there." And that's how the name stuck. Pete,
Wow.
the hustler. Pete Hustle.
I got
Hustle.
you.
That's how the name
Nice
came.
story.
That's how that's it right there. So there's a story that not too many people know about Pete Rose.
Oh, but you were talking about Pete Rose, and he's a big name in the history in baseball.
Oh yes.
And you are saying now that it was necessary to meet La Guaira in Venezuela to be a very good player.
Was Caracas. Caracas in Venezuela. Leones de Caracas. Yeah. I'm going to tell you what, there are so many players in the big leagues that if it wasn't because of winter baseball, they have never had made it to the big leagues.
Wow.
You want me to tell you? You want me to tell you another We just talked about a Hall of Fame, right? Pete Rose. You want me to tell you about another Hall of Fame that if he had not gone to the Dominican Republic, he would have never have made it as a player? Mike Piazza.
Mike Piazza.
Oh, Mike Piazza.
Oh,
That's a good one.
Mike
Daniel
Piazza.
is shaking
Mike
down
Piazza.
now.
Yes, sir. He's another one. And I could name maybe a few more. Keith Hernandez. Remember Keith Hernandez, the first baseman with St. Louis and the Mets?
Yep.
Right.
Puerto Rico made him a big league player. Names like that you begin to talk to a lot of them, and because of the history and the experience that they had in winter baseball was what made them jump to the big leagues.
Joe, taking this point, it's very nice because of the next question that I have to you is, you play it as a shortstop, right?
Correct.
We all know here how hard and how tough it is to be a shortstop in the big leagues. And I would like to tell to our audience the characteristics necessary and what kind of skills the baseball player needs to play in that position.
Uh-huh. Well, first of all, you have to be a good dancer. I always say that. I always say that when I start spring training, when I used to start spring training and work with the infielders, I always used to tell them, you want to be a good fielder, go learn how to dance salsa, and then come back, and you'll see. Because if you see the Latin America shortstops or the Latin America infielders, how easy it is for them to feel the ground ball. It's like there is poetry in motion. It's like it's a ballerina. Why? Because they're so loose. The American players tend to be more rigid. So I always used to say, you want to be a better infielder, learn how to dance. Now, back to your question. It takes physical skills, and it takes to be a very smart individual, not only to play shortstop, but to play anywhere at that level. Mm-hmm. I am a firm believer, and I have had a lot of arguments, constructive criticism arguments, with people in my field, because I have always said since I started playing that we concentrate in baseball too much in the physical part of the game and not enough in the mental part. I have always have said that, and I will go down to my grave saying it. I played And I played with and I played against a lot of players that had a lot of physical abilities and not enough mental ability, and they didn't make it past double A ball. And I played with a lot of players that had average physical abilities, but were very smart and played 10, 12, 15 years in the big leagues. This is a sport, especially baseball, is a sport that if you do not comprehend the mental part of it, the game will eat you alive because it's too fast. Nothing happens for a few seconds, but when it happens so quick that if you are not ready here, your body, see, you have to understand that your mind controls your physical ability. And if your mind is not prepared ahead of time, when that ball is hit and everything happens so quick, it doesn't give you time to think. And then you begin to act or react physically, but you really don't know what you're doing because your mind is not in control. I believe that you need more from a mental point of view to be able to do things physically that you need physically and not enough mentally. So I teach, as you and I, the few times that we have talked about the concept of hitting, especially, I am always teaching the mental side of the game because you have a player, you have an individual with a ball in his hands 60 feet, 6 inches from you that is trying to get you out. But he's not trying to get you out physically. He's trying to outthink you. And if you don't put a plan in action against that thinking, he's going to beat you 9 times out of 10. So yes, you need to be focused on what you're doing. I'm going to give you another. I'm going to answer this question with this story. It's a true story. We all know. Oh, I'm going to go 3 for 3. Another Hall of Famer, Carl Ripken.
Oh,
Carl
Okay.
Ripken. Yeah, that guy's.
When I was the infield instructor with Baltimore in 1978, that was my first year. Carl Ripken was signed, and he was sent to Bluefield, Virginia, in the Appalachian League. And they called me. I remember I was in Miami, working with the Florida State League in Miami at the time. They had it in Miami, the Miami Orioles. I was there working, and the front director called me and said, "Joe, we just signed Junior," which I saw him grow up in the clubhouse there because his father, Carl Sr., had him since he was 3, 4 years old. He brought him around. We all knew him since he was a little baby. He said, "We just signed Junior. He went to Bluefield, Virginia. We want you to go over there and start, working with him." I said, "Sure." So I got on a plane, got off to Bluefield, Virginia, got on to the field, beautiful minor league field with the Blue Mountains in the back, the greatest hitting background in baseball. And I get there, and Ripken is 17 years old. He's 6'1", 165 pounds soaking wet. And I'm saying to myself, okay, he was playing third base at the time. We worked. The kid had fantastic hands, but he was an average runner. He had an average arm strength, and he had average power. You put those 3 together, and right now you don't have a prospect. You have a suspect.
They don't sign you.
They have a suspect.
Right, you have a suspect. You don't have a prospect. Why am I saying this? Ripken finishes his first year. In 79, he goes and they take him to Major League camp. over the winter from 6'1", he had gone to 6'3", 190 pounds. Now you begin to see this kid and you begin to scratch your head and say, we got something here. Well, he was still a below average runner. His arm had improved a little bit more. It was better than an average arm. And his power had improved a little bit more because he got bigger and stronger. His third year, now Earl Weaver is questioning who's going to be my shortstop next year. And he says to me, being the infield instructor, he said, Joe, do you think that Ripken could play shortstop at the major league level? And I said, no. I said, I don't think he can. I think he's going to get too big. He doesn't have enough range. His arm is going to be okay, but his range is going to be limited. And by that, I mean, he's going to grow to be a prototype third baseman. Big, strong. He's going to hit 35, 40 home runs a year, 100 RBIs, and he's going to be there. He doesn't have to be worrying about moving too much. You're going to have a great third baseman. He asked a question. There was about 6 or 7 of us in the room, and everybody agreed. Earl used to love to drink, and he was sitting at his desk, and he went down and picked up a can of Budweiser and opened it up, and he went cluck, 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 cluck. Finished it, and he said, well, boys, he's going to be my shortstop next year. And I said, okay, we'll work with him at shortstop. And we started working at shortstop. The story gets really good now. I started working with Ripken, and I kept saying to him, Junior, for you to be able to get a good jump on the ball, you're going to have to really read location, because I want you to be moving. By the time the pitcher throws the ball and the ball is in the air, that 0.2 of a second, I want you to be moving where you think the ball is going to be hit according to what you saw as far as the sign and according to where the location is. For example, for your audience, if I'm facing you this way, the catcher is over there, the pitcher is here, and the shortstop is behind the right shoulder of the pitcher. Well, he could see all the signs that the catcher is giving, and he also sees location. So if I have a right-handed hitter, and I see that this pitcher, right-handed pitcher, is going to throw a slider to this right-handed hitter, I'm going to think that if the pitcher does his job, that ball is going to break to the outside part of home plate. If I'm playing shortstop, I'm going to start leaning towards my glove side because the ball should be hit in that area. Well, to make a long story short, Ripken learned this so well. After I left Baltimore and I went to the Dodgers, I used to watch games, and the center field camera would catch Ripken already taking a step before the hitter hit the ball. And that's how he was able to get to a lot of balls left and right that people said, oh my God, Superman. No. It was because he was so smart. He was anticipating where the ball should be hit. He wasn't hit there all the time, but percentages was in his favor. That's how he was able to play 15 years in the big leagues as a shortstop.
Wow.
And he won a Gold Glover, right?
Oh yeah, sure. Oh my goodness, yes. And another thing, because of his arm, he didn't have that powerful arm like Mescal used to have, and all those guys from Tony Fernandez. I'm talking about the Latin kids. Dodson with Chicago that used to throw the ball through a brick wall. Ripken had the better than average arm, so he had to learn. Catch the ball, throw the ball. Catch a ball, throw the ball. I used to tell him, no one is going to outrun the baseball if you let it go. You got to let it go. Don't walk with the ball and then run. And you watch him. The ball was in his glove. The ball was out of his glove. And those two things got him to play 15 years. He finished in third base his last 2 seasons, but he finished 15 years in the big leagues as a shortstop. Unbelievable.
More than 2,000 games without
100, yes. And there was 3 incidents that he could have not finished, and he said, "Nuh-uh." One of them was in the All-Star game in Chicago. What was his name of the Venezuelan kid, big, strong left right-hander. Anyway, they had the bleachers, and being big, the 2 of them, they were the last ones going up. And Fernandez was his name, last name. He slipped, and on the way back, hit him with his elbow and broke his nose. I mean, his nose was broken. He said, "I'm playing," and he played. And the other time was he loved to play basketball, and he was playing with the kids, his kids around the house, and he twisted an ankle. Came to the ballpark, the ankle was as big as a grapefruit. Told the trainer, "You tape that thing, but I'm going out there." And he played with almost a broken ankle like that. The guy was tough. He was tough. What a professional.
That's why
what a professional.
The Idol Man. Wow.
Yes, the Iron Man. That's right. That will never be broken. There's about 5 or 6 records in the big leagues that will never be broken. I guarantee you. Not because it's hard to do, although it is. It's because, once again, the money that they're paying now, guys are not going to play that long. They're not going to play 10, 12, 15 years when you got $150, $200 million in the bank. That record will never be broken. Another one is Nolan Ryan, 25,000 strikeouts, will never be broken because no one's going to play 22 years in the big leagues.
Joe.
Those are the things. Go ahead.
I have a curiosity. When you grow up playing baseball, who was the big name for you that you decide to follow, like as a model? Like, this is my guy.
I already gave one of them up. Pete Rose was my idol when I was growing up. I loved to see this guy play baseball. He gave it all. He was so into. You could see that he wasn't playing baseball. He was enjoying the game of baseball. He loved to compete. He knew that he was good, and he was going to prove you wrong, and he was going to beat you, and he was going to destroy you if he had to. I love that type of an athlete, and at the same time, he was a pretty quiet guy until later on. Pete Rose, Mickey Mantle was the other one. I love Mickey Mantle. Mickey Mantle was my hitting coach when I was my first camp with the Yankees. He was our hitting coach in spring training, and I never forget. I was 0 for 11, and I went up to him and I said, "Mickey, I feel good. What am I doing wrong?" He said, "Joey, you're taking this too hard. Just swing hard in case you hit it. Don't worry about it." What an advice to give. Swing hard in case you hit it. And I said, "What'd you say?" I said, "Oh, don't worry about it. Just go have fun. Just swing the bat. You'll be fine." Well, the next day I got 2 hits. Everything was over after that.
Wow.
All right. Hey, Joe, I'm telling you, I'm just learning here a lot about baseball. I love the game of baseball, but talk to someone like you with so many stories, have you seen so many things? It's like I do it, like an encyclopedia.
Well, it's 47 years actually I've been in this business. From a player to a coach to a scout, front office. Baseball has given me so much freedom to do so many things. I've been able to go abroad to Japan and Korea, Taiwan. It's given me an opportunity to meet people from all aspects of life. It's been a wonderful experience, and I have enjoyed it tremendously. I still feel physically enough and mentally enough strong that I'm able to, still get involved in the game. Although with all this COVID thing, it's changed a great deal. I don't know what I'm going to be doing this year, to be honest with you. But I love the game of baseball. I love to teach the game of baseball, and the conversation has always been the same. What have you done for 47 years? I said, I've never had a job in 47 years because
Here
I've
you
done
go.
what I love to do.
All
Yeah.
right. So, Joe, all of us here have an experience being an athlete. I was an athlete. Adriano was an athlete, and Edno was an athlete. But Adriano and Edno, they had, their career interrupted by a severe injury. It is known that it is very hard for athletes to deal with when he or her have a career interrupt by a very hard injury. If you understand what I mean, it's very hard for an athlete to deal with that when suddenly a injury take you out of the game. Now, I know you had that experience. Can you tell to our audience, could you describe this feeling? That's my first question to you. And after your injury, did you start your coaching career?
Okay. In the era that I grew up, because of the money that we were making at the time, we didn't have personal trainers. We didn't have personal chef. We a lot of guys, when you finish the season, they used to get a job. If you didn't go to winter ball, they used to get a job with the post office, with a bank, with a businessman, because you needed to support your family. You needed to some extra income. In the tri-state area, which is Philadelphia, New York, and New Jersey, there was a basketball team that the Yankees used to have to keep their athletes in that area in shape, because they advise you not to play tennis because of that. Remember back then the tennis elbow syndrome?
Mm-hmm.
Well, nobody
Yep.
wanted to play tennis because of that.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I hated to run. I just hated to run. Go jogging for 2 or 3 miles. I hated to do, especially when it was cold. So basketball was a sport that kind of gave you all that. It gave you agility. It gave you flexibility. It gave you endurance. And in a sense, it gave you strength. So we played a lot of basketball in the off season. And when I became a member of the organization, they told me where to go so I could participate in this games in the tri area, which the tickets, whatever they sold for the tickets, the fans that we used to go, it would go to charity. It was for a good cause. So we play basketball. Well, I never forget, this was at the end of my first season. You guys are old enough to remember the Converse, the low Converse sneakers when they came out. That was the Nike back then. Everybody wore Converse. So, of course, I bought myself a pair of white Converse, and I'm ready to go. And I was playing guard. I shoot the ball, and I follow it. I knew that the shot was not going to be good. It was going to hit on the side of the rim, and I'm going up for a rebound. And I landed on somebody else's foot, and I had those low Converse, and I tore ligaments on my ankle. Now, sports medicine back then was not what it is now. If I would have done the same injury now, I'd probably be playing in 6 to 8 months. But back then, it was the off season to begin with. They took me to a specialist. He took the X-rays, and he said to me, I wish you would have broken it instead of torn it like this, because it would have been a lot easier to fix it if it was broken than if it's torn. And he showed me the X-ray, and my foot was like hanging with all those threads of the
Ligaments.
tendons and all that stuff. And I said, "Oh my, this doesn't look good." He said, "Well, don't worry about it. We'll do the best we can." And I said to him, "The best you can is not good enough for me. Remember, I'm a professional athlete. I gotta get back on the field." He said, "Well, we have two options here. We go through rehab or we go through an operation." I said, "All right, the operation. Talk to me about the operation." He says, "Well, I really don't know how you're gonna, if you're gonna be able to come out and do." And I said, "Well, how about the rehab?" He said, "Well, if I were you, I'd do the rehab before the operation. Let the operation be second instead of the rehab." I said, "All right, you're the expert. Let's go." So we started doing exercises. And when we came to spring training, they would take me. Remember, the Yankees at the time were in Hollywood. Sheraton Complex was in Hollywood. That's where between Fort Lauderdale and Hollywood, the minor league complex was in Hollywood, and the major league complex was in Fort Lauderdale. It was probably a 20-minute ride between the two. So I get to spring training, and I'm walking in crutches. I still can't put my whole weight on my foot. So they start taking me to the beach, and we start running on the beach and doing all kinds of stuff on the beach to get my ankle to, well, yeah, but it hurt like hell. I couldn't play. The ankle got better. I lost that year. The first 3 months or so, I couldn't play. I joined the team in Fort Lauderdale on a rehab assignment in June, and I did the best I could, but I still couldn't play. I couldn't play. I couldn't be. The year after that, they traded me to Houston, and I went to Cocoa Beach. But the same thing. I had problems making the club out of spring training. They sent me to AA in Columbus, Georgia, and I went through the season. I would say I was probably 90%, and my career was never the same after that. So when Houston traded me to Baltimore, my second year, the fund director there, who became a good friend of mine, was with the Yankees when I was there, came to me and said, "Joe, Chico Fernandez just left us to go to the Dodgers as an infield instructor, and the position is vacant. And you and Kiko Garcia are fighting for the last spot in the Major League club to go as a utility. But I can't tell you if it's you or him. The position is open." And I said, "Say no more. It's mine." And I decided that my career was over then. And I started coaching when I was 24 years old. But I knew that I couldn't do the things that I used to do anymore. So why take a chance? I thought it was a great opportunity. It was a difficult decision, but it was the best decision that I ever made.
Well, Joe, you said something that I knew pretty well, but it will be another conversation because Ronaldo Niemeyer told something about this, that you need to know when is the time to stop. But he told something curious, that you play basketball off season to improve your physical conditioning.
Yes.
But right now, my question involves the basketball as well. But
I know where you're going.
It's a different way. Michael Jordan, as everyone knows, stopped playing basketball and went to play baseball. He reached a AAA level. According to Terry Francona,
actually double A.
Okay. Oh, double A, not
Yes.
AAA.
No.
Oh, thank you to correct me.
No. Just to make the point proper.
Oh, thanks. If Michael Jordan had spent 2 or 3 more years in the minor league, he would have reached the Major League Baseball, according to Terry Francona. How it is possible, this is the question, in basketball for an athlete like LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, to have a high school to leave the high school and go straight to NBA, and the players of the same level cannot do it in baseball.
That tells you how different the sport of baseball is. See, people don't understand. When you play basketball, for example, let's take Michael Jordan. He's got 5 guys with him, or 4 guys and him are 5 guys, and another 5 guys trying to guard the other 5 guys. You could make plays all day long for Michael Jordan to take the ball and take a shot. Michael Jordan could get what we call in basketball 27 to 37 touches, and he will score 40, 50, 60 points if he's hot that day. Why? Because you're able to give him the ball every time you want to, right? If you really want to. But when he goes to baseball, he only has 4 times at bat to show his true colors. I don't care how good you are. I don't care how average you are. I don't care how mediocre you are. You still have to wait your turn to show what you're able to do. Now, in basketball, he felt, because he grew up as a basketball player, he had all the tools to do whatever he wanted to do. But if you ask Michael Jordan, and I have had people that asked him, he said, people don't understand how tough mentally I was. He wasn't only my physical ability. I was a tough competitor between the ears. He knew the game of basketball inside out. So he used his excellent ability from a physical standard and put his mind into it. There's nothing he couldn't do on a basketball field, on a basketball court. Baseball puts him in a different scenario, because now he could be in the outfield and he might not have a play for 3.5 hours. Nobody knows Michael Jordan is out on the field because the ball wasn't hit to him. He came up, he struck out the first time. He came up the second time, and he struck out the second time. He came up the third time and hit a ground ball to shortstop. And then his 4th time, he might be in a position where the game is on the line. That's where the toughness, individually, that's where he didn't let his first 3 at bat get to him. He's still on the field thinking, what am I going to do here on the 4th? The reason why I'm saying this is this. I know Terry said that. And I don't doubt that Michael Jordan could have been a good baseball player. I never think he would have been a baseball player what he was as a basketball player. I don't think he would have been the superstar that he was on the court if he would have dedicated himself to play baseball. Because I think the sport of baseball is totally different. Football is the same thing. American football. You could give a running back the ball 27, 30 times. But in baseball, you got to wait your turn. That's what makes this game different. And you have to stay. You have to stay in the game in between at bats. You can't allow your mind to go, wander, because all of a sudden, and you don't know what's going on. Baseball is a different game, just about any other sport. It's a game that is played by a team, but it's also a very individual game. And you got to know how to work within those 2 scenarios. Be a team player, but at the same time, take advantage of your one-on-ones. That answer your question?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, Joe, well, I have a question here also. Continuing this path, and we have case of players like Patrick Mahoney, who was signed a contract with Kansas City Chief. That instead to have signed with Oakland Athletics here in California. It's become more common for athletes that have good ability to play two sports. They choose one, except like Bo Jackson back in the day, that were baseball player and football player. Now, my question to you is why there is a dropout of good athletics? I'm sorry, why there is a dropout of good athletes leaving baseball, follow their career in other sport?
Okay, let me first of all, let me have a drink of water and think
Right.
exactly what I want to say, because I don't want to sound harsh.
Okay.
If you noticed in the NBA and the NFL, I say probably around 60% of the players in the NBA and the NFL come from the background of families that basically here in the United States is what they call the black families, which I don't call them blacks. To me, they're my brothers, just like anybody else. But just to put the point, these athletes, most of them, all they have known in their life is the only way I'm going to make it is through sports. And they do whatever it takes to be able to get involved and accelerate their path to either the NFL, the NBA, or Major League Baseball. But once they get there, most of them have realized that basketball and football are a lot easier for them to play than baseball. Now, am I able to tell you exactly the reason why? No, but I'm going to take a guess, and this is my opinion, personal opinion. Baseball becomes too much of a issue because it has too many intangibles. You have to learn how to throw, you have to learn how to hit, you have to learn how to field, you have to understand the game, you have to be a student of the game. And I think in basketball and football, you could get away more with just being an athlete than being a student of the game. Physically, you're able to get away in basketball and football a heck of a lot easier than you do in baseball. Am I getting to the point that what I'm trying to say is I think that baseball is a little more difficult to play for an athlete that wants that wants recognition right away. They want to be noticed. They want the money. It comes easy in basketball and NFL more than it is in baseball. You have to grind yourself through baseball 2 or 3 years, 4 years in the minor league system to then be able to say, I am a major league player. Now, and Adriano knows this because he's been in the game as far as the baseball is concerned. Edno also. They are pushing these days their number 1, 2, 3 drafts. They're pushing them like crazy to justify the money that they're paying. And these kids are getting to the big leagues on the second and third year, some of them even after the end of their first year, and they really don't know how to play the game. They don't. So they're teaching this number 1, number 2, number 3 draft pick that got $2, $3, $4, $5 million as a signing bonus, the game of baseball at a big league level. And that's difficult to do. Because once you get there, you're supposed to be competing for a championship. You're supposed to be competing for a better contract. You're supposed to be helping your team win games. And the money once again gets in the mix of things. And because they're giving these kids out of high school and out of college that amount of money, they want to push them. They want to push them to the big leagues. They have to justify all that money that they're giving them. And I see a lot of misplays at the big league level that shouldn't be happening once you get there. And it's because of the rush to get these guys to the big leagues.
Wow.
I haven't watched a baseball game in years because he frustrates the hell out of me to watch these guys at that level make those mistakes. It shouldn't happen. Baseball is mistakes are part of the game, no question. You're talking to a guy that made 3 errors in 1 inning. 3 errors in 1 inning. Not too many people have been able to do that. 3 errors in 1 inning. So I know that the game is, the errors are part of the game. But what I'm saying is, I don't ever remember me making a mistake because I was not at the right place. I never remember throwing to a wrong base because I didn't know where I was supposed to throw. I made a mistake because I was human, and a ground ball and I threw the ball away or whatever. But as far as not knowing where I was supposed to be or not knowing what I was supposed to do, that did not go well in my book and in the book that I used, that my guys were around. But in these days, you see a lot of mishappenings at a big league level, and basically it's because they're not ready. My personal opinion.
Okay.
Okay, Joe, this is fantastic. Thank you so much. Joe, unfortunately, the time had flown and would be
You mean we're finished already? I'm getting warmed up here.
Oh my gosh. Well, this is mean that we'll be back to continue our conversation because you have a lot of things that we are so curious you understand. But right now, before we go, let me ask one more question, especially for our audience, because we know and you know that the minor league moves many, many millions of dollars.
Yes.
In your opinion, what does it take for MLB to make more investments in South American in countries such as Chile, Brazil, Argentina, and African countries like Ghana, Angola, Mozambique, Nigeria, or in Europe for the baseball become more international sports like they did on NBA? Asia, we know that they have something, but nothing like in Dominican Republic or in Venezuela. What is necessary, in your opinion?
Well, Ed, no, I think that idea that we used to have back in the 90s, 80s, 70s, 60s, and on, when the minor league system was the key of a major league team, that ship has sailed. I think that teams are thinking with the dollar sign more than they are with the developing side. And I think what they're doing now is that they're concentrating more of letting the NCAA be part of their minor league system than them going out and having. The Dodgers used to have 8 minor league teams. 8 minor league teams. Why were they successful year after year after year, rookie of the year after rookie of the year after rookie of the year? Why was the O'Malley family not have to worry so much about going into free agency and getting 3, 4, 5 players? Because of their minor league system. They had those guys ready. They taught them right. They let them slowly go through the system. And when they got to the big leagues, they were ready. But some of them took 4, 5, 6 years to do it. My feeling is now, because of the money, that minor league baseball has become a commodity. You are not going to see any more teams with 4, 5, 6 minor league teams. They're going to have maybe 2, 3, and they're going to allow the NCAA, maybe even help them. I don't know how, but it could be done. Help them develop those players in their schools, so when they get them, they don't have to waste so much time, and they could get to a double A level right away and play double A, triple A, and get to the big leagues. Or from a good NCAA school, jump to a triple A level and try to get into the big leagues next year. I don't know. I don't think it's the right way to do it, but I see this being done. I hear the rumors of minor league teams no longer being what they used to be, as far as the force of a team using players to develop them to get to the big leagues. So we're going to have talking about system, I think we're going to have a new system installed pretty soon. You see the writing on the wall already. When it's going to happen, I see it in the very near future.
Well, let's see what happened.
Yep.
And please, we are so appreciated to have you here at this evening. And I hope you could enjoy, just like us, enjoy it a lot, because for sure you have so many histories and stories to tell us, maybe on next time. And please give your considerations for our audiences to what you can dedicate for everybody to have a very good week and a good year as well.
Well, the pleasure has been mine. I love to talk baseball. I love to talk sports. I love to meet people. Jose, it's a pleasure meeting you for the first time. My friendship with Edno and Adriano goes back a few years, but it's always great to see new faces that love to talk about sports. I want to tell the fans one thing, if I may. As a parent, don't take away your kid to have fun playing other sports. Don't put them in a situation where they're one individual sport. In this case, baseball. I think you need to explore your horizons. You need to test your skills in the basketball court, in the football court, in the tennis court, in the golf outing, and find out what's out there instead of just concentrating on one sport. It gets to be too monotonous at times. It gets to be too consuming. And I see a lot of kids after 3, 4, 5 years, then they want to quit. They don't want to play anymore because they had enough. So give your sons and daughters a chance to go out there and experiment other things. And eventually, as they grow up, you're going to see which sport is really the one that they mean to, is good for them. And then you go after it with 100% attitude. That would be my number one suggestion for you parents that are out there watching this show.
Thank you so much, Joe.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you so much.
And it's a pleasure. Pleasure. Anytime.
With
and we'll get together. I love to talk to you guys. This has been fun.
Okay.
We appreciate it.
So much.
Thank you so much, Joe. Have a great evening.
Appreciate it.
All right. You guys take care. Bye.
And give a big hug to Jackie.
I sure will. We're going to have dinner right now.
All right. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Take care.